Hello, everybody. That's yes, Telemon. 2 streams in one day. That's crazy. It's madness. MPC, how the heck are you? I have missed your all caps. I can't say I missed your voice. I don't know what else to say. But, it's good to see you. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but we started streaming to both Twitch and to YouTube 2 months ago, when Twitch relaxed their policy about being quite so, I don't know, overbearing. I'm not sure what it would be. I'm not sure what it would be, but they previously had asked people to be exclusive to Twitch if you're going to be part of their affiliate program. But I launched a new Kickstarter. Well, I launched a new Kickstarter today. Folks who were here earlier at noon, we went live at 12:15. After about an hour, we were 3/4 of the way there, and I had neglected to email my list. I hadn't really told everybody, but it was really interesting. Of the about 80 people who had backed at a certain point, 60 of them had previously signed up to be notified when it went live. So that's a big percentage of them that, so of the people who have said, I want to follow this campaign and go and support it when it goes live, we're already about a quarter of those people. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting. Oh, I appreciate it, NPC. I was gonna say Max. The Rogue one, the card Rogue one, went really well, and now we're launching this one, which is for clerics. Again, it's for 5th edition. It's all set in the world of the Middle Age. You can see a little shout out to that on that character sheet drawing there. And today we're going to sculpt a little bit. We're going to sculpt some of the items that are in this upcoming book. They're all going to be sculpting on my iPad. It's what I've been sculpting all the characters in. I recently got myself a 3D printer and have been able to make some pretty impressive prints of the sculpts made here on the channel. This one's about 3 times the normal size. Too much light on this. I'm going to print in not this beige material. This is the first filament that came with the printer, and so I had a lot of it. Doesn't really show up too well, but really impressive. I can do smaller pieces too. This was a second filament I picked up, cheaper. It's a little stringy in places, but the quality is pretty amazing. Yeah, NBC, I mentioned that. I mentioned that to him. I think he's only popped in like once in the last 2 months, maybe, or 6 weeks or so, but I have mentioned it. But today we're going to sculpt some stuff, specifically make some little tweaks to this little helmet. You can see this was something I sculpted for the environment there in the painting. A sculpted reference of it. I lit it, but when I wanted to print a large one, and there are some imperfections in it, which I want to smooth out and address. And then there's also, you can see there's a mace on the cleric's belt. That's a magic. These are both magic items which will appear in the book, and so I want to modify those. Hey Eric, how are you? When people see hitting a goal, it's like, when my goals are, what is the bare a lot of people set very aspirational goals. Hey Marcus, some people set very aspirational goals for their Kickstarters, like I want to make $100,000, or I want to, say they say some ridiculous thing that isn't really what they need to get the project made. I'm literally saying, if I can't hit this goal, I'm just going to lose money, right? So there's a hardcover book, there's a softcover book, there is a miniature, which has a setup fee that's fixed, like $500. It's just gone. $400 to $500 just gone. Just for them to make the master mold of the miniature. The books, if I'm not spending $1,000 on each of the print runs to get the price per unit down, we're getting into the weeds here. But the numbers I come up with are really like, also assuming that, like, let's say if there's a $3,000 goal, I mean, of $3,000, $300 goes to Kickstarter and the credit cards. And some of that is postage. What people also don't know is that postage is included in that total. So if you pledge $10 and there's $5 shipping, it says, oh wow, $15 has been pledged. So it's it's a little complicated. I thought we would do. I feel like we're going to do fine, and we are doing fine. We didn't blow the doors off the way we did with death dealing, which we hit our goal in 30 minutes. But I think death dealing, the card deck was a really sexy thing for people to pick up. A T-shirt, I don't know if people want a T-shirt, but the card deck was absolutely something people wanted. But this is good. I wanted this campaign to be simple. I knew starting it in December was going to be weird. It's going to roll through the holidays where people will be distracted and not paying attention. Yeah, oh wow, 100 backers. Thank you so much. I'm going to give a shout out to Polina. Thank you so much. Number 100. Oh, Marcus, speaking of it, I'm on pins and needles. I missed a nice box. That's amazing that you say that. That's really what it needs. I didn't get a box. That's what I figured. That's what they meant. That's what it needed. The different vendors I looked at and spoke with about getting a box for the cards. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab the deck of cards. Now the cards came shrink wrapped, so they were protected, which is good because when the boxes arrived from the printer, FedEx delivered them, and they delivered them in a rainstorm, and they left them away from my home, like far enough away that the boxes were destroyed. Had they put these plastic cards inside a box and the box was on the outside, those boxes would have been ruined. But the cost of the boxes and printing the boxes was so expensive. NPC, good to see you. And yeah, I really appreciate it. And I'll let Jimmy James know if, when he pops in. Had the box been around the cardboard, and I've seen that sometimes where you get the cards are put inside in the shrink wrap, the boxes would have been mangled. But the cost of the boxes would have made the card deck so expensive that we couldn't do them. So I've been looking into options for it. A handful of people have asked about it. And there are some places I've seen that will ship them flat, with a few pieces of tape that are... So basically you get the box, it gets two folds on it on the sides, and those have peel and stick tape. So I might be able to get boxes made. I'll put them in the web shop or something like that. So anybody who really wants a box, they can get that. The other option is I can sculpt a... to print and assemble. Marcus, exactly. Because once the template's made, I can just post it online. And the other option would be to make a 3D print, an STL, that you could download and print out a box. That's something I've worked on sculpting for the zines. I sculpted and printed this hinged box. I was just again, the lighting here is hard to see in this beige plastic. But it's a hinged box. And I thought if I put the STL of this, make one card size with like the death dealing dagger and maybe the ace on the front of it. So it's a little hinge, it gets printed, and then the pin goes down the side, and there's two of those. Maybe a small card box will only need one pin. That might be an option for some folks as well. But I do appreciate the idea of, I mean, I've had my deck on the table next to my my couch in the living room, so it's like whenever I'm watching TV, I've got the deck of cards in my hand. Marcus, I love that idea of just illustrating it and making that available for people to download and assemble themselves. That's a great idea. Telemot says, I use one of those old clear snap cases for trading cards. I have those as well. I was going to recommend those. Amazon sells them, but they're like, you have to get like 6. So it's not really a... the issue with the normal boxes is they degrade really fast from opening and closing them in most cases. The paper ones, right? Those tuck boxes, that's what that's what they're called, a tuck box. But I was also trying to find tins. Like nobody makes one that are... Like a standard poker deck is 2.5 inches by 3.5. I wanted to find like a, I don't know, 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 tin that I could just get imprinted on the top. Those would probably cost $1 a piece. A pain to ship though. But for sure, Marcus, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make it. I'll design it anyway, even while I'm trying to hunt down a printer for it. And I'll make that available to download and print. What a good idea. I wonder how... I bet it would fit on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. This is the sort of thing where if I had a Cricut or one of those Glowforge Auras that could slice and dice the page myself, I would make these. I would make the boxes myself. It's when I have a bigger workshop I can do that stuff. Boxes for cheaper at a local game store. Absolutely. If you go to any local game store, they'll have like the perfect sized plastic, either 2-piece with a lid or a tuck box that's plastic that you can put the cards in and then still see the artwork from the deck. Yeah, but Marcus, great idea. Great idea. I'm pause as I add that to my to-do list. And for anyone who's interested in that grognard sculpt, fingers crossed we get there. I do think people would dig it. I'm going to make the STL available this week to all my Patreon supporters. So if you want to be able to print this, I printed this off of my filament printer. It's a large creature, so it doesn't have to print that small. Boy, I need it. Every time I do this, I'm like, I need a manicure. It's such a good idea, Marcus. I wish I'd thought of it. Because, you know, anyone who's any good with an X-Acto knife would be able to cut it out and make their own box. Actually, I have an image of the cards in the case on the Discord server in the Death Dealing channel. Oh, that's great. All right, folks who want to see that can pop over there. All right, let's get some stuff done. I'm not sure if this is going to be a very long stream because we had the stream earlier today. Feel free to go back and watch that as I vamp for an hour with no art, like my hands weren't preoccupied. But so far, the campaign's amazing. I don't know what to expect from this one. I've mentioned this before. Intoximancy is kind of an easy sell. Drunken Wizards. You know, it's not a complicated pitch. Then there is Death-Dealing Rogues. Rogues who throw cards. Pretty badass. I could see D&D players really liking that. This one is weird. This one is real weird. It's like Neo from the Matrix. It's like wrestling kayfabe. It's like Abed Nadir from Community. It's Deadpool. It's a lot of stuff happening here. And then I've got that Grognard, which I'm very happy with how that turned out. Super happy. Plus, I'd never painted fur before, and I never sculpted fur. And the cape that you see here in the painting is just, you know, me faking it. For folks who don't know, I don't use AI art at all. I do use photo reference. I'll purchase stock photos or license stock photos or take photos and use those as the basis for illustrations. Oh boy, we're probably hit a stretch goal pretty soon. David, how are you? I appreciate it, Moose. I instituted a no takebacks policy. That was a question that someone mentioned on Reddit today, which I wonder what people feel about. Someone apparently purchased like a couple purchased a ring for $2,000, and then they were contacted later by the jewelry store or the jewelry company or whatever, saying it's actually they made a mistake. That's a $10,000 ring, and they owe the other $8,000. And most people are split. I wouldn't say split. It's not 50-50. I think the vast majority of people are like, no, you just got that $10,000 ring for $2,000. There are a lot of things I've sold and really wish I would have gotten more for. I would absolutely consider that I've made a mistake. I think that vendor learned a valuable lesson. That or they need to really work on their... the default is on the seller. Yeah, the seller really needs a persuasion ability check with a very high DC. Telmont says, I think legally that would be called bait and switch, which isn't legal. That's probably true. Yeah, David, I'm really surprised at the... he sucks, but it's their suck to deal with. Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's do some art. I vamped for an hour earlier today. Let's see if we can get some stuff done. We'll put the minis up here for a second as I switch the screen over. Sorry for the jumping around. But if anyone wants to pledge, please do. It's at prayershandbook.com. We're going to work on some sculpts first. Actually, well, let's jump into Procreate here for a little bit. Look at some of these paintings. I just want to show these off because I didn't work on these during the stream. So this is a sculpt. You saw me sculpt this here on the channel, and then I bring a mostly lit one and slightly colored version into Procreate, and then I paint over it and over it and paint over it and over and over it. The idea is to make it no longer look like a 3D model. I want it to feel more like I know it's kind of old-fashioned to use all these digital tools to make something look like a painting, but I feel like that's the aesthetic you want to have for a fantasy RPG, especially as established by Dungeons and Dragons. What's up, buddy? Did you want some screen time? My cat is making a plea for more screen time, or he wants me to throw one of the toy mice for him. I wonder if there's a bot that will alert chats. I wonder. I could also, in the past, when I wasn't streaming to both the YouTubes and a toy baby weasel, there was in the past I had like the pop-up of the... Well, we could do that anyway, can't we? That's death dealing. That's not the right little headline. How did I even do that? Oh, that's a folder. All right. All right. We can do this. We can. Everything's mislabeled. Sure. Oh, I see. The folder is locked, so I couldn't move it. So we'll move you over there. And we'll move you over there. All right, we can leave that up. And I'm going to lock those things. I'm just making a mess of the place. Okay, my cat has decided to pipe down. But part of the aesthetic is just making it look like a painting. And it's weird, a digital painting at that. I don't know if people want it to look like a watercolor or an oil painting or acrylic. There's something, it looks like a digital painting. That's the aesthetic they're going for. It's sort of like halftone patterns in old comics. Like, people want it to look like that. So I didn't realize I have blue. See, this is why everything on that page has said this is a placeholder. I didn't think there'd be blue in the skull area. So I'm going to sample this dark color. Take the round brush, the round watercolor brush that comes with Procreate. I'm just going to cover up that blue patch. Because I could try to figure out what layer that's on, but nah. There's a shadow in there. And you can just see layer upon layer, and I feel like the eyes can be a little darker too. So I set this layer to multiply, and I'm just using the watercolor brush and going to paint in a little extra heaviness. I may still have that layer somewhere. I do not. Occasionally I will keep a version of the what would you call it? Unfinished? The raw elements brought in from Nomad Sculpt. But I'm really happy with this. I think... Let's fix this. I feel like these blue lights on the sculpt don't work. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm just going to cover these up and see if it's better. I feel like these are so far away from the blue side of the creature that the light shouldn't be glinting. I can see where I've gone in and added a little extra where I didn't need to. Like, yeah, let's just continue that blue glow everywhere. I'm going to sample the darkest blue there. Oh, hello. Silverino, thank you for following. I think we're at 306 followers now. So take that, Paramount Plus. People who've been watching this channel for a while know that Paramount Plus is my mortal enemy. That's not true. What are you doing, cat? All right. Seems my cat has chosen to lay down. Yeah, I'm much happier with having this blue. I don't mind the blue highlight on the far left of the figure, but it doesn't belong on each one of these scales. Yeah, that's better already. I like having it, and I don't mind it being ridiculous. If it doesn't have to follow physics if it looks good. Yeah, that's better. There's a few others in here I'm not sold on. I don't know why I did them. Like, that wasn't there before. I just added that. You can see how I just scraped in that fur back there. And the toughest thing for me is not to zoom in infinitely and try to make it perfect down to like the molecular level. When I say make it perfect, I just mean, you know, to the point where I'm not as neurotic about it. Lightening that shadow just a little bit. And then a little extra trick here on a layer above. I'm going to set the layer to color and sample that champagne gray. And I'm painting that on top. So there's just a layer of that's set to color, so that will mask any other blue. Yeah, that's better. That's better. So that'll be the grognard. I probably will make a few other changes and tweaks to it. Yeah, little hints of blue all over the place. I think I'm at the point with this thing where you can see all the various layers I've got here. The shadow and the cape I'm going to leave alone, but I'm going to merge everything else together. As I work, I keep all these layers so I can adjust the stuff, but I don't think I need to keep those anymore. I'm going to take the eraser tool and just soften some of these. Oh, that's on the cape. All right, all right, all right. Oh, heavens. Some of those highlights on the cape I painted on the other layer. Ah, live and learn. what's to stop you from zooming in and adjusting individual pixels, right? I once had a conversation with Dave Sim where he didn't understand how you can ever finish a piece working digitally. I get that. I had that problem when I was working on my first comic, which was an Astounding Space Thrills. I did a comic called Avant-Garde and then Astounding Space Thrills, and those were vector illustrations. So you could zoom in indefinitely. You could work at 3,200%. I basically decided at some point when my first comic came out that I had to stop at the zoom at 800. 800% was the maximum I could zoom. Anything beyond that was never going to print. You'll never the DPI of the press and the output was not going to be sufficient to let you see any of the work I was doing. The bigger issue, I would say, is not the pixels and zooming in. It's the like permanent elasticity of the material. You know, at some point there's a structural limit to how much you can chisel away of a sculpture, but I can do it indefinitely in Nomad Sculpt. Oh yeah, Dave. Yeah. I realized you were on top of that. But what Dave's takes about zooming in pixels, and I was just making the contrast between pixels and vector. Like vector, you can zoom in indefinitely. Pixels, at some point, you hit a limit. I mean, even at 300 DPI, sure, you can change individual pixels, but you see those pretty quickly. I was like, I do my best until I'm tired or have... Right. The deadline's looming. There's a lot of other things. I have to eat. But I think about like the idea of watercolor artists who have to... Well, when you're doing your watercolor pieces. You know, there's only so much you can do. Only so many layers you can apply before the paper is going to give out. Whereas us digital cheaters can, have 1,000 levels of undo. When I was in some sculpting forums, where was it? It was on Discord. I got some grief for I said I was sculpting, and they had issue with me using the word sculpt. But they didn't have a better word for me to use. I started saying, I made things? Are they things? So this was I can show you this. This is a good example of taking two licensed photographs. I think they were both from Adobe stock. And combining them together. I'm sorry, the Kickstarter's in the way. So this is what I got from Adobe stock. I've already flattened them together, but it was a kind of a malevolent looking priest type person in a very wrinkled set of robes. I lifted up I hit the contrast way high, and then I put a lizard's head on it. And then I painted over it, and over it, and over it. Enlarging things, adjusting things, painting over new stuff. Putting one of the hands behind the book. I 3D sculpted the book and replaced it with a new book. I sketched in bat wings, added horns. The color change wasn't like a dial I could turn. I had to paint over the whole thing. Added scales to the hands. So this is one of those meta-domain clerics in the book, and every cleric in that gets a magic book that levels up with them. So almost all the illustrations are people just holding books, and it's not, generally speaking, not very dramatic. And so I need to have a few more illustrations in this book where the person's holding the book in one hand and doing something extremely, magical and aggressive with, twisted shoulders and all sorts of stuff. One of the things people definitely like to do in D&D is do damage and cause spectacular effects. But I was really happy with how this turned out. I just slapped in those wings and kind of sketched them, and I was pretty happy with them. I dashed in a texture. I just went overboard on the texture of the face itself. Again, that's the original. That's a photograph, and I can't make heads or tails of it. So I just kind of went nuts. I do like that you said, until I'm tired or happy enough. because it's such a good artist thing to say, David, that you didn't say until I'm tired enough and or happy. Until I'm tired or happy enough is very, very relatable. And then this was another one where I was very happy with this. I had never attempted to paint chainmail before. And I looked at lots of photographs. I did my best to understand it. And then when I realized that it was basically, two C's facing each other, I was able to kind of cobble the whole thing together. I might still have the original here of what I started with. Oh, I did. So I think it was like a nun type character who's holding a book, wearing a turtleneck, and then a cosmetics model. Again, this is all Adobe stock licensed images. So there are two of them. I did lots of stuff. Tried to give a slight smile. Made the eyes larger because it's a little more cartoony. Sculpted. I sculpted not sculpted, but I drew in that chainmail. I kind of sketched it in. You can see it's just mostly just slapped color. And again, I blues for the shadows and kind of a lighter yellow vanilla color for the highlight. The idea. Oh, and this is one of the first pieces. I took a pencil that I've put together, basically adapting other pencil textures inside Procreate to create a pencil, and started sketching in that because I thought that looked better for hair. Anytime I was using the watercolor brush for hair, it started looking really weird. Using that pencil, and then I outlined the face a little bit there. So nice little texture. I started putting that texture in a lot of little places. I like the look. But the chainmail is there because clerics can wear armor. And so I wanted to make sure that people know that this is a cleric. Anywho. And then there's this one. Again, this is very much, the hands are very much like the photograph for the most part. The book is 3D rendered and then brought in and then painted over to add cuts and all sorts of damage. And I went through and using that pencil, sketched in a texture for a pattern for the ropes. Just kind of one swirl after another, and then cloned it and moved it to the right and down just for a shadow. And then the hair, just trying to make it look kind of cool. And the glowing eyes, of course, it's D&D. And there we have it. Let's work on some sculpts. And that was all done in Procreate on an iPad. I'm using a 4th generation iPad Pro. There are later and greater models. My cat is being silly, but so far not being destructive, so I'll take it. All right. So this is the helmet that I sculpted for the cover of the book. You can see it there if you check out the Kickstarter. It's there by the tree. Pretty much just this angle for the most part. I think with this lighting, I don't think I've adjusted anything. But it was just a really quick model I put together. Didn't really think it through. But now that I have this 3D printer, I'm like, hey, I can print these things. So I want to go through and adjust the model for printing. So I'm going to make it all a single color. And that will also help me see little imperfections. I don't mind imperfections in this version because I want to paint over the whole thing anyway. So I get to get rid of them. But if I'm going to try to print this thing... Oh, this is the printable one. That means I must have another original here somewhere. Great, I do. Good, good, good. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go to Matte Cap. And then I'm going to select everything. And we're going to change the color to default. This way you can see things like I didn't see that little chip Oh no, these are all fused already. Okay, okay, okay. I'm going to undo this a little bit. I'm going to go open up the original. Because this version I made for printing was just really quick. I fused all the elements together. One of the things you can't do is when you're using Nomad Sculpt is just take a raw sculpt that you've made, export it as an STL file, and think it'll print. It just won't. There are errors in here. There are flaws in the geometry that your printer will go, nope. Now, if you have a slicer and you're on a Windows machine, more than likely, they do have repair tools inside the slicer. The slicer is the thing that takes the STL and turns it from being this geometric explanation of an image or of an object, of a virtual object, and turns it into a slice by slice, row by row description of the thing, so that it can pass the instructions to the printer for a row by row reassembly of the object, or initial assembly of the object. But if that slicer is going to run into any problems, like it can't define that slice because of a problem with the geometry, then the whole thing will fail. And a lot of slicers will say, this has got too many problems, I can't fix it. On a Mac, if I try to open this in the slicer, it would say, can't do it. Go fix it. And that's where programs like Mesh Mixer and stuff like that come in. All the stuff I had to learn in the last 2 years, as someone who picked up sculpting at the end of 2022. No, end of 2021. How long have I been doing this? I'm gonna say end of 2021. Okay, so I'm gonna save this as a new version. We'll call this monochrome printable. I can spell monochrome. Push comes to shove. Cave. I'd rather fund with you than fund without you. I might have been funding without you, but I was thinking about you the whole time. Force paint all. We'll go to matte cap. So now in this version, I think these wings are separate elements. Every part of it's separate. So we'll call this right wing. Left wing. No politics jokes. Delete these other bits. Find me a job, I'll happy John Mark. I am working on it. I'm thinking about it all the time. So in the printing I showed earlier, Cave, it's not resin, but the FDM printer made a 3-up Intoximancer. Kind of lovely, smooth cape. Really surprised by that. And then this reference I had in the back of the Prayer's Handbook cover, I decided to print. I had to print a large one. I want to fix some of the little imperfections that I noticed when I scaled the thing up. Wait, my phone just lit up. By the way, if you're ever feeling like you just which people would reach out to you, like just to say hi, launch a Kickstarter, because you will get so many messages from scammers because they were getting in trouble for saying, "Do you want us to promote to 1 million people?" Blah 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 blah. You know, now it is they got burnt so many times for just reaching out with an obvious spam. Now it's like, hey, I want to back your campaign, but I have lots of questions. And it's one was I'm really interested in your exciting and incredible campaign. Like, come on. And one was like it was nice to meet you, Steve Connolly. Like cut and paste. It was awful. All right, so I'm going to separate that wing. I'm going to smooth out that corner that's sticking out. So it's basically a piece here. I'm just smoothing it out to hide its the way it's connecting. I kind of like leaving it chunky. It feels more metal to me. Like it feels more like it's a piece of metal. But I'm worried about this top feather here and how it doesn't connect to the helmet the way everything else does. That second row doesn't. And this absolutely was inspired by Warduke's helmet. I mentioned that before. That Warduke is a D&D character. The story goes that a bunch of cartoonists were hired to, over a weekend, come up with a bunch of D&D characters. And I think it was like Steve Bissett, John Tuttleman, that early graduating class. I think Rick Veitch was in it too. That early graduating class of Kubert, of the Joe Kubert School. And they just cranked out all these characters, and Tim Truman cooked up Warduke. And it is the wackiest design. It's asymmetrical to start. It has got blue chainmail or ringmail on the right arm and the right leg. And like leather and a leather pauldron, I think. The right arm, it's got like a loincloth, a fur loincloth, I think. The right leg's bare, as is the right arm, but with a fur boot. On the leg, not the arm. Although I could look again, maybe. There's there's skulls everywhere. The shield is a giant skull, but the thing, it looks like it was drawn very, very small, and it inspired so much. It feels like Boba Fett, where nobody knows anything about this character. It just looks badass, and has inspired a ton of love, despite not really having a presence. I think he may have appeared in 1 or 2 episodes of the animated series, so it just stood in the background. Cave says, "I've got one better for you. Apply for jobs on online job sites. You'll get dozens of emails and texts every day from so many kind and generous people wanting to give you a dream job that pays more than you've ever dreamed possible. If you would only kindly respond with your full name, location, and then message them on their MS Teams account." What is that all about? Is it a scam? There was something nice and primitive about how quickly this original one was slapped together. I'm worried that I'm going to ruin it by putting in too much effort. I feel like I am. This thing has many levels of undo. I'm going to stick with it. Oh. Let's try this instead. Select. So I took these two pieces here, and first I turned them invisible, and then I cloned them, and then I turned those two visible and fused them together. The reason why I cloned the original ones is that way we sort of have a backup of them. So if I decide I don't like what I'm about to do, if I don't like the changes that are happening here, I can undo it all. I thought I might solve the problem by not moving it or adjusting it, but by fusing it together. But chicken wing in the back, not looking great. I love how it looks from the front, but it thickens up there. I don't know why. Let's undo a little bit here. I hope everyone's having a excellent Thursday. Oh. Yeah, scams. That was a response to the Kickstarter scam comment 2 years ago. But I was wondering, how is it a scam? I have no idea what they were trying to pull, but a month ago when my wife was job hunting, she was getting those MS Teams emails. I see. So they're luring you onto MS Teams for some reason. I'm just trying to figure out what's the advantage of getting you on MS Teams. Oh, once we get them on MS Teams, that's how we get them. That's how we... Is it Microsoft just trying to get customers? And I'll have you know, Cave, I've checked the messages upwards of 1 time. All right, all right, all right. Turn off snapping here for a moment. It's phishing. They get you on MS Teams to have a text interview, and then they get you given personal info. I see. Ugh, that's awful. The whole idea that anybody would ruin the sanctity of MS Teams, it's kind of rude. Kind of ruins the whole thing. I don't think I would enjoy MS Teams after that. Cool, that might be better. All right. Gotta get this just right. I saw a bunch of people hating on that on the recent Indiana Jones movie. I couldn't bring myself to be all that upset by it. I thought it wasn't so bad. I mean, it wasn't great, but I don't know what people were expecting for a sequel at this date. It's like complaining that the Coneheads movie wasn't good. Didn't capture the Coneheads magic I was remembering. I thought it was perfectly fine. It was definitely awkward in spots, you know. Like, they seemed to put him in certain scenes that the movie had to have. Like, there was a checklist. We got to get him in the hat again. We got to get him in this sort of scene one more time. I don't know if I should soften that curve, I think. Absolutely going to increase the post subdivision there, or the Division X. But I did not know when I was launching it today, after yesterday's delayed launch, that it was also going to be the day Matt Colville launches his new role-playing game. His is launched over, I want to say it's on BackerKit or Crowdfunder, one of those other ones. Alright, I'm going to clone this one just so I have a backup. And we're going to validate it. I'm going to try to smooth out the end of this thing. Let me see if I can merge these two together. we'll separate them just to clear out any garbage that might have gotten stuck in there. Oof. Yeah, whenever two bits of geometry are kind of running parallel or like really on top of each other, they will shatter like you see here. Not a good look. Let's see if I can fix it. I'm just using the smooth tool to blend these things together. Or try to anyway. I don't think I like it. I'm going to go back in time until they are ungrouped and try to go back further until these are, until that stem is a tube again. Because I feel like it needs a taper more. So this thing's got to rotate a little, or I got to move the bottom of this a little bit so it doesn't quite cover up those Bose headphones he's wearing. Must be nice. Yeah, that's fair, Eric. I shouldn't give any... I'm assuming that's a reference to the Indiana Jones movie I was talking about. Or when I mentioned Paramount Plus earlier. So apparently a lot of cool stuff happened at PAX Unplugged. I don't think I'm feeling too much fear of missing out, though. I think it would have been worse if I hadn't gone to Gamehole Con. I think, like, that was a show I would have missed out. I would have felt like I was missing out on. But, PAX Unplugged just seems like it's too large a show. I'd much rather do smaller shows for the time being. Not that Gamehole Con was all that small, but I think that's better. I don't know if it's too chunky. There's just no pleasing me. Alright, let's see if I can select this whole ear thing. And we will join those together. So I will clone that. Then I will attempt to flip it, and hopefully we're still centered on the universe here. World. Yeah, we are. Man. I'm not sold on that fix. Pardon me. Sorry. Wait, I'm setting up that Kickstarter. Oh my goodness. 111? Thank you, you lovely people. Christopher, thank you. Lewis, Sage, Taylor, Scott, Rachel, Edward, Marcos, thank you. Alright, I have to definitely adjust the opacity back up. I was like looking at it like, why is it looking so weird? Alright, opaque. Now I have to see if I have the original, the original file that had the hollow that I carved out of the center of the helmet, because I'd love to use it to replace these two side pieces there. There's also a little piece in the middle, it seems like, right there. That's the back of this. Another thing I have to do is fix the kind of underpinning behind the wing. Just trying to get this to fill in some of the holes in the model, and also make it look good for anyone who looks behind the helmet. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing great. All right, folks, we're streaming for an hour, a little over an hour. How are we doing? 112 backers. Thank you all so much. The Faking Fox, thank you so much. I will be right back. I'm going to take a little break, stretch my legs, and I'll see you all back here in about 5. Take a look at this wonderful gallery of artwork by some amazing cartoonists. And I'm back. All right. So working on this helmet. These are one of the 2 ears of the helmet. I'm cleaning it up so that I can print this larger. It had a weird flex in the middle of it. I'm trying to mitigate that if I can. I'm keeping the original in case I like the original better. I do that. I save backup copies upon backup copies. And in this case, I'm just reinforcing the back of the thing. I'm using the move tool to adjust some of these pieces. All right. I'm going to remesh these together nice and high. Keep sharp edges, sure. Go higher than that. So this or that is my 9th Kickstarter. One of the big changes from the early days of doing Kickstarters is that more people are familiar with it. You say you're doing a Kickstarter, it's sort of the generic, like, I don't even think people call them crowdfunding campaigns, they call them Kickstarters. I would have liked to have started this latest campaign a couple of months back. That was part of the plan to do that. But couldn't pull it off. I just had so much work, and we had some delays with shipping of the death dealing rewards. Part of the problem was the just getting the card decks in so I could mail them out to everybody, and I hit the ones in the back with a smooth brush. So it took a while to get those in, and that slowed down death dealing, and I didn't want to start one campaign when the other one hasn't been finished yet. I'm worried that that could happen in the case of this campaign, just because I might be waiting for the books to come back while... When a campaign ends, usually it takes 2 weeks for a Kickstarter, like it's almost to the minute. 2 weeks later, you get paid for whatever the total that's raised minus 10%. You know, the amount that's taken out by roughly 10%, the money taken out by Kickstarter and the credit card company. And then I could, if all the files are ready, I can place the order for the books for the Prayer's Handbook at that moment. And that would be the ideal. That the campaign gets funded, then I start prepping the books, the book files are ready, the money comes in, hits the account, I hit print, and they take the money, and things move into production. And however long it takes them to print the books and get them back to me, I gotta think that January will be a light month for printing books, but you can never tell. And then the February is Zine Quest, and I have a plan for a project for Zine Quest, so I really want to get these books out quickly to everyone who backed. I was almost going to suggest there were some people who were like, there are some people who are very much interested in the PDF versions of the books. And I accidentally hadn't listed the PDFs of Intoximancy and Death Dealing inside as one of the add-ons. They were listed in the graphic, but for some reason well, not for some reason, because I hadn't clicked a button, they weren't available to people to back at the launch of the campaign. So I've since adjusted that. But I also thought recommending just people go to my website, because if they don't want to wait till the end of the campaign to get the PDFs, they can just go there. Okay, I think that fixes it. So, delete that and delete that. Then I will clone that, and I will go to the front. I will flip it according to the world, right to left. Then we will turn on the helmet. Let's see how it looks. I think that's better. I like the taper. Now I'm going to open up the original helmet. Oops. I'm going to save and drink coffee and then open up the original helmet. Now, this program can have the autosave feature turned on. I don't have it turned on at the moment because where is the original helmet? Here we are. Because it fills up the iPad with extra memory, extra files. What it does is every step along the way, every 10 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever interval you set, it's not like Procreate that it just happens in the background. But in Nomad Sculpt, you have to say save the file. And when working in Nomad Sculpt, it will make a duplicate file as a backup every 5 to 10 minutes. Not that it makes a new, it takes basically backs it up by replacing the previous backup. So it's not like it creates infinite number of files, but that backup folder was huge. If you have, 5 gigabytes of models, then you have 5 gigabytes of backups. So this is the original helmet. I'm going to see if I have any invisible objects. There it is. That's what I was talking about. This is the inside. This shape that I forget how I made it. Maybe with a combination of a sphere and a cylinder, or possibly a lathe. A rudimentary lathe. Yeah, this is a lathe. I created this bell shape and this hollowed out the inside of the helmet. So I'm going to save as selected objects only, new helmet lathe. Helmet hollow. Then I can open up what the hell happened? For some reason, Solo was selected, and it wasn't showing. I was wondering where all those little doodads on the top of the hat were. Okay. Meanwhile, previously, in this episode, open, nope, add to scene. That puts the hollow right back where it goes. So, let's turn off the helmet itself. We already know that that's been hollowed out properly. Making a few copies of that, turning them invisible. Selecting one of the invisible ones. No, let's do this first. We'll select him. Then one of the invisible ones. And now it should hollow out the inside of it a little bit. Or have I already done that? Huh. That's weird. It's not doing what I wanted. There it is. Much better. I don't know why it wasn't behaving the first time. All right, let's fold that up. That's the old left wing. Why are those together? Huh. Not sure why it's like that. It mirrored it and made a duplicate of everything. Alright, let's bring that back. I think that was fine. Yeah. I'm going to select this, rename it. No. Rename it. How are we doing? Alright. Left wing, right wing. I'm going to delete that one. The only part that's a little weird is that spot behind the eyes, or above the eyes. Try this. Almost fixed it. Sweet. So 150 backers. That's awesome. I really appreciate everyone who's managed to support the campaign so far. That's really great. Okay, I like that much better. I think those wings are good. They're better on the back as well. I can modify that for print, and I can print one of those a little bit later on today, I think. At a small size, it only takes about an hour to print, but you double the size, it ends up taking 4 times as long to print. So we'll see how that does. What was another piece we were working on? It was that mace of the. I don't think we need to work on that. I think that's actually pretty good. I'm gonna take a look at that mace if I can. We can open up the file. Oh, some of these images I showed before, that dragon, sort of dragonborn looking character holding the book, you can see there in the background, that was the part of the image at an early stage that I brought in and placed the book and lit it to match what I thought the figure had. The right amount of glows, the right amount of effect, and then I brought that into Procreate and then painted over the whole thing. But that way I had the perspective, I had everything exactly where I needed it to be, and painted it again. That's a copy of a book that should somehow still... You totally made that in Mid-Journey, don't you? That's why all my cartoon... That's why Mickey Mouse only has 4 fingers. Steamboat Willie was all Mid-Journey. No, I'm very happy that I'm not using that stuff. There's a colleague who was kind of making the case for using auto-generated material, and they said that I judged them, like that I was judging them, and I don't know. I probably was. I didn't want to be, because because part of it is that I understand the idea that if, I'm lucky that I can create these pictures in whatever quality they are. Here's another book. That's another one I sculpted to fit that camera angle. So I put the pages together, I put the book together. This will appear in... heavens, why did I put that? I should have put that in the Grognard's pile. But I lit all this up. I didn't care about those back hinge things there because they weren't going to be seen by anybody. But I sculpted it and then lined it up and adjusted perspective to the point where it would fit exactly where I wanted in the illustration. I would take it out of there and we would go into Procreate and I would paint over the whole thing. But I also planned, you can see part of the original photograph, or at least an early version of the photograph under that, where straggly bits of beard, hair, and I was slicing and dicing off huge chunks of it. There's no... that other book was, I guess, fine for a photograph, but not what I wanted. I wanted it to be this magical tome. And the other one I had was for the... the Drow. Which might have been too complicated a book, maybe? It was the same book. It was actually the same book, just colored a different way. And you can see an early part of the illustration there, where it was just a pure silhouette, and I just have drawn in these kind of folds as to where I want things to go. Just making it up. Theft is justifiable offense in our society. A judgeable offense. Yeah, it is. It is. What people But people don't view it as theft. They just don't. They view it as... Some people view it as empowerment, right? They think that I can't draw this thing, but this machine will draw it for me. But I actually heard somebody say this, that had a system that created the thing for them, and they said, look at what I created. I made this. And they felt like they had, because they pressed the button, or they typed in the request that produced the thing, therefore they created it. Which reminds me back in the 90s when Photoshop was first taking off in newsrooms. Someone asked, what's that thing in Photoshop that makes it look like you've done something when you ain't done nothing? And they were talking about lens flare. And that is really what AI is. What's that thing that makes it look like you've done something when you ain't done nothing? This was something doesn't have a use for it yet. I was just trying to see if I could sculpt a dragon. Early stages, but I think enough brush work to create the kind of texture. That will be something someday. And is there anything else I can share that you haven't seen before? 1,000,000 times now. I think that's it. But a lot of these things are going to get printed now that I can 3D print. One problem with the 3D printer, I got the Bamboo Labs X1. The problem with it is it's very, very loud. And I have it right there. It's like right over my computer, right there. To the point where it's like I would have to have noise canceling. I would need to have a cave. I don't understand. AIR equals theft. Yeah. There are some noise baffling things which you could put over the fan to try to... I don't want to reduce the fan's capacity by putting a muffler over it of some kind. But I do have a closet over there which you can't see it. It's right next to the live lion. I've got a closet which I can take some of those packing materials and boxes out of, and I might move the whole printer into that closet and then close the door so I can work in here and not worry about that particular sound. And because of the camera that's inside there, I'm able to review the process and monitor the process as it's producing something. What that thing is called where you look like you've done something when you've done nothing. It's me. I done something. I must have done something. All right. Let's call it pretty soon, I think. There's not much else I can do at this point. I'm gonna have to render out some stuff and start illustrating it. And I also, this evening, I'm blocking out time to work on The Middle Age, which is my webcomic. So I'm gonna get a larger version of this helmet, the one we just sculpted. From this point in the process, I take this sculpt, I take this part of it, I bring it into, I export it XTL. I'm going to fuse a few things together. That's a huge thing to do for any sculpt that you're going to attempt to, that you create a Nomad sculpt that you want to then print later on. Those horns on the top of the helmet, anything that's particularly small and standalone, will generally have a problem of some kind. And then when you take it into Mesh Mixer and ask it to fix it, it will do the easiest thing it can, and it will just get rid of those horns. Happened 3 or 4 times when I was prepping this file to be printed. It immediately just got rid of the horns. So what you do is you mesh them into the rest of the metal. So those bands that go back and the horns and the base of the horns are connected to, fuse those together. And that way it can't throw the horns out without throwing everything out. So I had to do that with the house model as well, the model of that large house. It's got a sign on the front by the door. That would get thrown away. and also the chimney on the back of the building. If I don't fuse these things together, it won't work. So got to fuse a lot of stuff together. So that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to fuse these elements together. I'll export the STL file, bring it to my desktop. In Mesh Mixer, I'll try to see if I can repair it. You run the analysis tool in Mesh Mixer or Mishmixer. Mishmisher. You run the analysis tool. It will fix the holes and any problems with it. Export it again as an STL file and bring that into your printer and print it. And so any of the STL files that people get from my website, from my Patreon, as Patreon supporters, or through Kickstarters, all of them run through Mesh Mixer. And until Mesh Mixer gives it a clean bill of health, they don't get it. It's because there's some sort of problem in there, and a printer just won't be able to deal with it. Now, a lot of slicing programs have that built in, but those are almost always on Windows only. Like the Prusa Slicer and Cura, they have some repair tools, but not in the Mac version. I don't know why. But there we are. All right, well, everyone, I really appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much for supporting the Kickstarter, for being here earlier today when we streamed like from noon to 1:30 or so. That was really great. I think we're closing in on our first stretch goal. We're $83 away from better paper. I knew that I wanted that one. That's always the first stretch goal, is better paper. If push comes to shove and we just crawl over the finish line, then the books I'd still make the books, but they would just be 80-pound paper instead of 100-pound paper. I like the thicker paper. So we'll have thicker paper when we hit 4,000. Let's see some of those other stretch goals. Ooh, I'm going to save that helmet so I didn't lose my progress, excuse me. There is so much stress in setting up a Kickstarter. Oh boy. All right. I think I can hide the other Kickstarter while the Kickstarter window's open. We haven't been selected a project we love yet, but the day is young. So the stretch goals. Deluxe paper, then more magic items. That's going to bring the page count up. Zan, how the heck are you? I'm not used to the stress of Kickstarters. No. I don't think you... No, because I think Kickstarters still have that ability to be... they can take off in a big way. It's sort of like posting it's like tweeting or doing anything on social media, where when I post something on social media, I expect 3 people to see it. 2 of them will click the thumbs up, or they like or upvote it or whatever. But then for the most part, it's just going to die on the vine. When I do my Kickstarters, I expect a certain amount of... If I continue to deliver at the quality I've been delivering it, I expect to get most of the folks back for the next thing, if the thing is their flavor. This is a bad month for a lot of people. People just spent a ton of money on Black Friday and holiday gifts, and these books don't arrive until January. So I mean, if these were going to arrive before Christmas, I might have sold more. So it's a weird time, but I just have to get it done so I can make room in the schedule. If I fall behind further on the calendar, then all of 2024 gets messed up. So you've been distracted by school lately? Oh, I'm sorry. But school's good, right? So these are the stretch goals. The first 3 are improvements to the book itself, the books. Dan, good to see you. So the first 3 stretch goals are improvements to the books. They'll increase the page count and add more magic items. They will they'll add spot UV to the cover of the zines, which I've shown this before. It's one of my favorite things to do in production. It adds a little bit of shine to those bottles. So all those D20s on the cover of the zine, not the hardcover. It's not something available on hardcover, but the zine version of Prayer's Handbook. Those icosahedrons will all have a shimmer to them. They'll feel embossed. And then So those are the first 3 stretch goals. And then after that, it's a vinyl sticker, which I think people have seen. Uno momento, por favor. I'm still here. I haven't run away yet. But these have actually been printed already. But I want to give them away if I can. I don't think I have enough yet, but oh, that's upside down. Is it upside down? No, that's like that. So these stickers will go to every order. And then the $10,001 one is huge. That's making a mini kit, a high quality cast miniature of the Grognard. Let me see if I can get the camera to do what I want. We'll turn off autofocus. We'll increase the... And this is just a 3D print off an FDM printer with pretty mediocre filament. Like you can see stringing and bits of extra filament there. But this would be a high quality, gorgeous print with way more detail and not that kind of like looks like he's got the butt of a cigar in his mouth. That's just where the support connected to the overhang of his teeth. The handle's a bit busted. Again, for a FDM printer, this is pretty amazing. You can see the bits of striation if you zoom all the way in. But I was really happy with how the cape turned out. Everything about it is rock solid. If I was playing a tabletop game and I brought this out, it does the job, especially if you were to paint these. So that's the $10,000 reward. We get that, and then these can be added, and everyone will be able to order those, and the STLs will be available as well. The STL will be available to all my Patreon supporters this month, so if you go to patreon.com/Steve Conley, you can get one. Get the STL now and start printing them. And then there's a t-shirt. Beware the Grognard. The mini. I know, it needs more D20s. And then these are all add-ons from the previous campaigns. Or people want extra t-shirts and things like that. I will say that the craziest thing in this whole campaign is that if anyone missed my previous campaigns, that's how you can get all the stuff you missed and actually save some money. You get the t-shirts, the deck of cards, 4 of the minis, all the books, both the hardcover and the zine. And I don't know if anyone's picked that up. I did the math and I was like, okay, what can I shave off the price? My iPad doesn't like to scroll up the pledge side of the screen here. I'm not sure if anybody's backed it at that point yet. Oh, the t-shirts have done well. Good. Everything so far, 1 person. And there's only 20 of those available because that's the only way to get the card decks. I just don't have that many card decks. It was about as popular as Death Dealing itself, the last campaign. And I'm running way low. Oh my goodness, we're real close to that next goal. Where did I get that printed? The zine or the mini? The mini. I printed it myself. I printed this off my 3D printer. And Dan asked, how long did it take to make the goal? 2 hours? I wasn't paying that. Oh my goodness, we unlocked our first stretch goal. William pushed us over. And Zan got us real close. Zan and William back to back. Look at you getting all into it. Those printers are impressive. It is, After 2 years of sculpting and not being able to do anything with them, it's life-changing. I called it. You called it. You said 2 hours, Dan? The other stuff I've printed so far, that filament was from Sunlu. It was okay. It was very cheap, but people said it worked very well. The default PLA that came with the printer was fine, but it's very gummy. It almost feels like it's one of those pencil top erasers. Like it's got a real... It was very, very flexible. I think as it dries out, it'll get stiffer, but it felt really gummy. And the most technical thing I've sculpted so far, this is what... On Thanksgiving, I was teaching myself how to CAD. I've looked into Fusion 360. I'm definitely going to get that. But I do have more on my trial period of Shaper 3D. And so this is what I made with Shaper 3D is I sculpted that book with a hinge. And I printed the two pieces and just the part of it that I needed to test the hinge. So basically I sliced off part of it and said, okay, let's just print this. And the two pieces do hinge. This is with a pin. Which I can pull out. I printed the pin as well. So the pin turned out pretty straight as well. And the two pieces just come apart with... sorry about the beige filament. It finds a way to lack all detail. But that means I can print the book, and this book will be a version of the Prayer's Handbook. Again, this is something we might unlock if we get really past the grognard. An STL file that people might get, or ones that I will actually print out and manufacture. Basically 2 days of the machine printing and hopefully not screwing it up. And then it will be a box which would have a felt lined base. So it will double as, not only will it hold the zines, it would be the right size for these zines to fit in the, I think it probably hold like 5 or 6 zines. So I've got my work cut out for me. These would fit in the box. But there'd also be a felt line at the bottom, felt lining at the bottom, so that people can use it as a dice tray. The only problem with that printer cave, the Bamboo Labs X1, is it's loud. It's a very loud printer. It has a live streaming function where I'd be able to have a box on the screen here and show it while it's printing. It's more hypnotic than showing you anything effective, and you can download a time lapse. I've done that. You can see over a few on my Discord. It's also frustrating to watch a time lapse and then it gets to the point where it starts to spaghetti, or one of the supports comes loose from the platform and starts spinning out. But the problem is the machine's too loud. If I had it running right now, you'd hear the fan noise, and certainly you'd hear the print head going back and forth. So I might move it this weekend, move it into one of the closets on the other side of the room. I can be able to close it, and we'll see what happens there. But thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here. We streamed for about 2 hours. I streamed an hour earlier today, and it was lovely. I can't thank everybody enough for backing the Kickstarter. I'm going to have a refreshing beverage, and yeah, I'll probably stream again. Don't be surprised. During these Kickstarter campaigns, I tend to be online more than not. But yeah, it feels like we're going to make the Prayer's Handbook, book number 3 in this series of silly projects by me. I can't believe how many weird things I've made and are going to get to keep making. All thanks to you all. So I really appreciate it. But I'm going to leave here and I'm going to go work on The Middle Age, my webcomic, which is overdue for an update. And I'll put on my cartooning hat and take my D&D hat off for a while and not look at my, not look at the ticker. But thank you all so much. Oh, one other thing I will add about this. If you haven't created a Kickstarter in the last 6 months, they have revolutionized the interface behind the scenes for Kickstarter. It was pretty much the exact same system for the last 5 years. Going in there now, their authoring tools for building the page, for building this story, much easier to use, less funky, less weird. And also, they've added all these graphics on the right hand side here. So each tier can have a graphic, gives you room to put a little visual. And so, of course, I had to make it fancy with like torn paper and all that stuff. It almost eliminates the need to have this section of the story. It might completely eliminate the need to have that section of the story. And then each one of the little items gets a product image. Those are all that really does is add to the amount of, well, it's helpful for people who want to add things on later on, because previously their add-ons were all just descriptions, and theater of the mind is great for the game, but it's not really great for a shopping cart. But you have to create all those graphics, and like suddenly I found myself, I've got to create 20 more graphics. How big do they have to be? Where does it go? How do I make it look good in that space? So thankfully I think it's solved, but it's not like this graphic exists anywhere. A montage of the t-shirt mini and the book and the PDF, all with nice drop shadows sitting next to a bunch of text. So always more stuff to do. Fear the grognard. All right, folks. Have a lovely night. Is there anyone we should raid? With our where shall our raiding party go? Are they prepared for the invasion? Where are my other glasses? There he is. But I haven't really even spammed the. I think I mentioned on social media. I emailed my list today. I should have emailed them yesterday saying, hey, at noon tomorrow. That's what I did in the past, and that generally gives the first hour a real bump. But I would really love, I say it every time, I would love to be a project we love. That's the thing that puts you just in front of so many more people. But the gaming section is pretty stingy with that. Chrome is naturally being a jerk. I'm trying to think, was there anything else to add to this whole experience? I did like that I had the placeholder page up for as long as I did, so that people were able to queue up for it. When we went live, there were 271 people who were asking to be reminded when it goes live. So those people are out there. They'll be sent reminders before the campaign's over. They were sent a reminder when it went live, and they'll be sent another one right before it ends. Those people might have been the folks who spammed me as soon as the campaign went live. And then this Saturday you can catch Dan and I talking shop on Mazes and Muses on Twitch at the Zero Level Media channel. I'll give one more shout out to the campaign here. Cleric. Prayer's Handbook if you want to back the campaign or want to set a reminder to when it's going to wrap up. I think I spent 3 hours yesterday working on a video that I just wasn't happy with for the top of the page. It was fine, but it really wasn't. I didn't think it did a very good job of selling the concept. I thought this illustration, which I'm really happy with, that title illustration right there, I think that looks like a box that might go on a tabletop game. It's got a nice feel to it. I was never really happy with how the death dealing one turned out. But I'm also going to run some Facebook ads for this one. I think I'm going to have a I have a meeting to do that. What the heck is this? I see one of these things is live, but I don't know if anyone's there. Let's do it. They're streaming the Midwest Games Fest, the Horror GM's Toolkit. Let's go see what our friends at World of Game Design Live are doing. So I will go to my channel. Hopefully we don't break everything. But thanks, everybody. You're all very lovely. I really appreciate you being here.
Everything. But thanks, everybody.
That's me talking to myself. I wish the camera didn't. I wish the audio was. Moose! Clerks. VOGD live. Right, folks, let's go watch World of Game Design. They're at like a Midwest Game Festival right now, and they're pretty awesome. I don't know what the panel is specifically. It said about horror, GMing horror. But they have a whole bunch of events going on this week, so we can all check those out. Thanks again. See you later.